Learn English through stories. Leo sat at his desk, a pile of English books beside him. He could read complex articles, understand movie plots without subtitles, and even follow fast-paced podcasts with surprising ease. Yet, when it came to speaking, his tongue felt tied. Frustration simmered daily. He knew the words, he understood the grammar rules, but the sounds simply refused to flow out coherently. It was a common hurdle for many language learners. This feeling of being stuck, of having so much knowledge bottled up inside, was incredibly disheartening for Leo. He yearned to express his thoughts, to participate in conversations, to connect with people beyond a simple nod. He desired to bridge that frustrating gap between passive comprehension and active verbal communication, a challenge that resonated deeply within his learning journey. One evening, scrolling through language forums, he stumbled upon an unconventional yet intriguing piece of advice: learn English through stories. It wasn't about dry textbooks or rote memorization. It was about immersing oneself in narratives. The idea immediately captivated him, offering a fresh perspective on his long-standing struggle. Could this truly be the breakthrough he desperately sought? The suggestion emphasized engaging with stories not just for plot, but for language acquisition. It promised a more natural, less intimidating path to fluency. Leo decided to give it a genuine try, armed with newfound hope. He downloaded several simple audio stories, suitable for his current English understanding level, eager to embark on this novel learning adventure. His first step was purely passive listening. He would put on an English story while doing chores, during his commute, or just before bed. He didn't focus on every single word initially, but rather on grasping the overall meaning and the story's emotional tone. This gentle immersion was designed to improve his listening skills naturally. He discovered that consistently listening to English story reading significantly enhanced his auditory comprehension. His ears became more accustomed to the rhythm, intonation, and common phrasing of native speakers. The stories, being engaging and often simple, made this process enjoyable, removing the usual tediousness associated with traditional listening exercises. After a few days of passive listening, Leo progressed to active listening. This meant he would listen to a short segment of a story, maybe just a paragraph or two, and then pause it. He'd try to recall what he heard, focusing on specific details and key vocabulary introduced within that brief excerpt. This active engagement deepened his understanding. He started identifying recurring words and phrases within different stories. This contextual repetition was a powerful way of learning English vocabulary without conscious effort. The words weren't isolated, they were part of a living narrative, making them easier to retain and recall when needed. It was a refreshing departure from flashcards. The stories provided a rich tapestry of conversational English, idioms, and common expressions. Leo noticed how characters interacted, how they expressed emotions, and how their dialogue flowed naturally. This exposure was building an intuitive understanding of how to talk in English, something textbooks rarely provided in such an organic manner. To improve his fluency, Leo adopted a technique called shadowing. He would listen to a sentence or a short phrase from the story, pause it, then immediately try to repeat it aloud, mimicking the speaker's pronunciation, intonation, and speed as closely as possible. It felt awkward at first, but incredibly effective. Shadowing forced his mouth and tongue to articulate English sounds in a way they hadn't before. It was a physical practice, much like learning to play a musical instrument. This regular vocal exercise was directly addressing his core problem, the inability to speak well, even when understanding was present. He focused on the rhythm of the language, the way words connected, and the subtle nuances of stress and unstress. This wasn't just about individual words, it was about the melody of English. Each shadowing session incrementally improved his pronunciation and made his speech sound more natural. As he continued with shadowing, Leo noticed his listening skills also sharpened considerably. By actively trying to reproduce the sounds, he became more attuned to distinctions in pronunciation that he might have previously missed, enhancing his overall comprehension and reinforcing his learning cycle. Remembering words became less of a chore and more of a natural outcome. Because the words were embedded in compelling narratives, they carried emotional weight and contextual meaning. When he encountered a new word in a story, he often vividly recalled the scene or character associated with it, aiding memory retention. He kept a small notebook, not for dry definitions, but for sentences and phrases from the stories that particularly resonated with him or contained useful expressions. This personal collection became a living dictionary, much more effective than abstract word lists for enhancing his vocabulary recall. The way of learning English through stories was proving to be holistic. It wasn't just about isolated skills, it was integrating listening, speaking, reading, and vocabulary acquisition into one cohesive, enjoyable experience. This integrated approach felt much more organic and sustainable than his previous methods. After several weeks of consistent practice, Leo felt a subtle shift. The words felt less stuck in his throat. He still wasn't perfectly fluent, but the internal resistance, the mental block he experienced when trying to speak, had begun to loosen its grip. This progress was immensely encouraging. He decided it was time to take the next step, start step-by-step talking. His first attempts were simple, almost whispered. He would retell a short part of a story to himself, imagining he was explaining it to a friend. This low-pressure environment built initial confidence and comfort. He practiced describing characters, summarizing plots, and expressing his own opinions about the stories aloud. These exercises were designed to move him from mimicry to independent speech creation. He wasn't just repeating, he was producing his own sentences, albeit based on the story content. To improve his fluency further, he started varying the stories he chose. He moved from simple children's tales to slightly more complex short stories and even simplified news articles presented in narrative form. This diversity exposed him to a wider range of vocabulary and sentence structures. He also experimented with recording himself as he spoke. Listening back was often cringe-worthy at first, but incredibly insightful. It allowed him to identify areas for improvement in pronunciation, speed, and intonation, providing concrete feedback for his speaking practice sessions. The consistency was key. Even on busy days, Leo dedicated at least 15 to 20 minutes to his story-based English practice. He understood that small, regular steps accumulate into significant progress over time. This discipline transformed his learning from a chore into an anticipated daily ritual. Eventually, the time came to practice how to speak with people. Leo felt a familiar wave of anxiety. His initial goal wasn't perfect conversation, but simply to initiate and sustain a brief interaction. He decided to start small, with people he felt comfortable with, like online language exchange partners. His first conversation with a native speaker was daunting. He fumbled for words, his mind racing to recall vocabulary. But thanks to his story-based training, some phrases and structures came to him more naturally than before. He could understand their responses, which was half the battle won. He realized that making mistakes was an integral part of learning how to talk in English. Every stumble was a learning opportunity, not a failure. This mindset shift, born from the playful nature of story learning, significantly reduced his fear of errors and encouraged him to keep trying. To remember words better during conversations, he would quickly jot down unfamiliar terms he encountered, not to define them immediately, but to look them up later. This allowed the conversation to flow without interruption while still ensuring he captured new vocabulary for future study and review. He discovered that actively using new words in his own sentences, especially those derived from the stories he consumed, helped solidify them in his memory. It wasn't enough just to understand them, he had to produce them, to make them his own, a vital step in memory retention. Leo joined an online storytelling club, specifically designed for English learners. Here, he could practice retelling stories, sharing personal anecdotes, and engaging in discussions related to various narratives. This provided a safe and supportive environment for low-stakes speaking practice. This club was instrumental in improving his fluency in a real-world context. He learned to think on his feet, to organize his thoughts in English, and to respond spontaneously. The focus wasn't on perfection, but on communication, mirroring real-life interactions. He actively sought opportunities to engage in brief English conversations whenever possible. This might be asking for directions from a tourist, ordering coffee in an English-speaking cafe, or participating in online group chats. Each small interaction chipped away at his speaking apprehension. His method for how to improve your listening skills continued to evolve. He started listening to podcasts and audiobooks on topics he was genuinely interested in, moving beyond just stories, but still applying the active listening and shadowing techniques he had mastered. For fluency, he began summarizing his day aloud in English before bed, or narrating his actions as he performed daily tasks. This constant, internal monologue practice, even without an audience, significantly increased his comfort and speed in forming English sentences. He understood that fluency wasn't about speaking fast, but about speaking smoothly and with minimal hesitation. The stories had built a foundation of natural phrasing, and this self-talk practice was helping him access that foundation quickly and efficiently. Remembering words also involved spaced repetition. He'd review his notebook of phrases and new words from the stories at increasing intervals, ensuring that the vocabulary he learned remained active in his long-term memory. This systematic approach was highly effective. The start step-by-step talking philosophy permeated all his efforts. He never pushed himself into situations where he felt overwhelmed. Instead, he consistently built upon small victories, making incremental progress that felt sustainable and less daunting. He celebrated every small win, understanding a new accent, correctly using an idiom, or maintaining a short conversation without too much effort. These mini-victories fueled his motivation and reinforced his belief in the story-based learning method. Leo realized that the most effective way of learning English was to make it enjoyable and relevant. Stories provided that perfect blend of entertainment and practical language acquisition, transforming a frustrating chore into a rewarding journey of discovery. He started recommending the story method to everyone who struggled with speaking despite understanding. He explained how English story reading built intuition and confidence, rather than just knowledge. It was a holistic approach to language mastery. His confidence soared. The internal barrier between his understanding and his ability to speak had largely dissolved. He no longer dreaded social gatherings where English was spoken. Instead, he looked forward to them as opportunities for genuine connection. The journey wasn't linear. There were still days of frustration and moments of self-doubt. But Leo had developed resilience and a clear strategy. He knew that consistent effort, even small daily steps, would always lead him closer to his ultimate goal. He often thought back to the initial advice, learn English through stories. It had been the catalyst for his transformation. The narratives had not only taught him words and grammar but had also taught him how to think and express himself in English. For anyone asking, how to talk in English? Leo's answer was simple: start with stories. Listen, mimic, and then tell them in your own words. It's the most natural way to build your voice. His own journey was living proof of its efficacy. To improve listening skills, he always stressed variety in his story choices and active engagement. Not just passive listening, but truly trying to grasp nuances, accents, and emotional tones conveyed through the narrative. It made all the difference. And for how to improve fluency, Leo advised constant self-practice. Speaking aloud to oneself, narrating daily activities, or even singing along to English songs, all contributed to making the language flow more effortlessly from the tongue. Speaking with people remained the ultimate goal, but he emphasized a gradual approach. Starting with low-pressure environments like online groups, then moving to one-on-one conversations, gradually building comfort and expanding one's conversational range. Remembering words, he reiterated, was less about brute force memorization and more about context and active usage. Embed words in stories, use them in your own sentences, and regularly review them in a meaningful context, not in isolation. The "start step-by-step talking" motto was foundational. He never aimed for perfection overnight. Instead, he focused on consistent, small improvements, celebrating each incremental gain as a significant victory on his path to fluency and confidence. Leo's English journey became a testament to patience and perseverance. He had transformed from someone who understood everything but spoke nothing, into a confident communicator, capable of engaging in diverse conversations and expressing complex ideas. His story was a powerful reminder that the path to speaking well isn't always paved with traditional lessons. Sometimes, the most effective way is to tap into the innate human love for stories, allowing language to unfold naturally within compelling narratives. He found joy in the process, not just the outcome. Each story he encountered opened up new linguistic possibilities and deepened his appreciation for the English language. This passion sustained him through challenges, making learning a truly enriching experience. Leo often shared his secret: don't just read stories, live them. Let the characters teach you, let their dialogues become your practice, and let their worlds expand your vocabulary. It's a magical journey. He encouraged others to find stories that genuinely interested them, ensuring motivation remained high. Whether it was fantasy, mystery, or real-life anecdotes, personal interest amplified the learning effect, making every session engaging and productive. His progress was not just about language, it was about personal growth. He became more confident, more outgoing, and more connected to the global community. English wasn't just a subject, it was a bridge to new experiences and friendships. The initial frustration had faded, replaced by a profound sense of accomplishment. Leo now spoke English fluently and naturally, a direct result of his dedicated, story-centric approach. He truly embodied the transformation he wished for others. He concluded that understanding English is merely the first chapter. Speaking it is the grand adventure that follows. And for him, that adventure began and flourished through the captivating power of stories, one paragraph, one conversation, at a time. So, if you understand but struggle to speak, remember Leo's journey. Dive into stories, listen actively, mimic the sounds, practice speaking gradually, and watch your confidence and fluency blossom. Your English voice is waiting to be unleashed. Start today. Pick a short story, press play, and let the adventure begin. The path to confident English speaking is not as daunting as it seems when you approach it one engaging narrative at a time. You can do this.